Thank you, John, for your time, by the way. All right, hello and welcome to Pivotal Voice. I'm your host, Alex Alexander. Today we're welcoming Jon Garrett to our Losers Club series, a conversation about taking chances, facing setbacks, learning from mistakes, and moving forward. Jon, you are a husband, a father, an entrepreneur, a community leader, and a former candidate of Texas State Representative HD10. Welcome to Pivotal Voice. How you doing today, Jon?
Hey, Alex, doing good. Thanks for having me.
Good, good. I know you're a busy guy. Thank you so much for taking your time. So we're gonna make this as short and sweet and as beautiful as possible. So, Jon, we're gonna take it back a little bit, okay? Are you ready for this one? So our first question. Jon, back in senior year, when you were playing baseball, because I know you played baseball, and you were driving to practice, what were you listening to in your car?
Okay, well, first I gave up baseball for golf. So I played golf for Waxahachie. What was I listening to? I was
Driving to
listening
golf practice.
to Cyclone by Baby Bash, I think it is. She made
Really?
a body like a
A
cyclone. You know that?
cyclone?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that
know
was
that.
the
Of course.
jam. Senior year, maybe a little Wayne, maybe a little bit of that, little Weezy.
Ah, I see that. I see that. So I can see you driving your car to golf practice. Were you good at golf, or would you say from a scale, let's say 10 professional, one is someone that never played? Where were you in between there?
I was good. I was really good. Yeah, that was my thing. Ever since I picked up a club, man, it just felt right. So I loved it. I still love it.
So how are you now? What's your par now?
Um, yeah, I'll probably get around even par. Probably still shoot pretty low. Yeah. It's like riding a bike, man. You don't forget it. It's like muscle memory.
Well, I got a chance to play bowling with you, and you bowl like a professional. So
Oh yeah, my wife actually beat me that night. I have to be honest, man.
are you
She bowled
serious?
lights out. Yeah, yeah. We went for a rematch the other night with the kids though, and set the matter straight. So
All
hey,
right, Jon. So
yeah.
I know you had a great political run. What made you decide to run for a state representative?
Uh, yeah, it's probably, I'll give you a short answer to that. I found myself in a position in life where I built a lot of businesses and done a lot of things. And with the businesses I built, they obviously work directly with Texas government and the federal government. So I got to know a lot of folks from, the governor on down. Spent a lot of time in Austin. So I came in with a really good understanding of how government works, and through that, from a business lens, the inefficiencies, and in particular here locally, owning local businesses and local investments, the impact that we're seeing, from not being represented the way I think we should be represented. So, with that knowledge, that experience, and that lens, I was in a place in life where I had the capacity to serve. I had the capacity to step away from what I was working on in my professional life, and pursue something that would benefit the community that I love. That's kind of my short answer.
Well, that's a pretty long, short answer, Jon. But I know it was an honest answer. So our next question is, how was the conversation with your wife? When you told her, you said, "Hey, honey, Alyssa, I'm considering running for state senate." Like, how did that conversation go on your porch? So I know that's where you like to have your conversations.
uh, that's right. Gosh, you know a lot about me. You've done your research. Yeah, front porch where we sorted out. I guess the first reaction was a little bit of shock. So you're like, why? But my wife has always been, and she's always understood since we were young, that I'm wired that if I see something that I feel like God's put on my heart to do, then that's the way we're going. And she's always supported that. So it was nothing but support from the beginning, with the caveat that we were both a little naive in our understanding of what exactly we were getting into, and the road that was ahead in a campaign.
Okay. So when you talk, you say, "Hey, Alyssa, I'm doing this," and you said, "How do you feel about this?" Like, what did she say? What were her first words to you when you said, "Hey, this is what I'm doing"? Did she say no? Did she start crying? Was she mad? She said she wants Red Lobster. Like, what did she say?
No, no, no. We go to Waffle House a lot, man. We don't mess with Red Lobster. Um, but no, none of that. No, she just kind of asked me, what's your reasoning behind it? What's your motivation? And that's the usual question. I mean, it was Same thing for like the Texas Theater here in town. All right, tell me why. And she's a great sounding board. We go back and forth, and she tells me the truth, even when I don't want to hear it. But on this one, it was just God's put it on my heart. We're in a place in life where I can go for it. And she knows my experience in working down in Austin. She's been to the events in Austin with me and all the places, and understands. And she has probably the same perspective as me on local things. So.
Okay. All right. Well, has anyone in your family ever run for public office or been involved in politics at all?
Yeah, my dad was on the Perot campaign in 1992.
Ross Perot?
Yeah, he was living down in Austin. He saw Perot on Larry King one night, and Larry King had asked him if he would consider running for president, and he said, "Well, not really, but if someone gets the petition going, then I'll get on the ballot." So my dad and a buddy of his put up a billboard in Austin with a phone number on it that said Ross Perot for president. Called this number. They started the petition process, and that led to an exciting chapter of his life where he was really involved with that. He didn't stay in politics, but always kind of a cool story of his involvement there.
I remember when Ross Perot was real popular, and people would always kind of make fun of the way he spoke, and there was comedians making fun of, but they make fun of all politicians. So I thought it was real funny. I haven't heard that word Ross Perot in a very, very long time. So that's really cool that your dad got a chance to do that. All right, so I read up on you a little bit, John. It said growing up, life wasn't always easy. Can you tell us about those years and how that shaped you today?
Uh, yeah, I mean, nothing really was handed to me. I grew up, yeah, I grew up pretty rough in a rough home. Alcoholism and things like that, and um, it led me to a very dark place at 19 years old, where I just had so much hate and so much anger, and I just could not stay out of trouble. And at 19, I kind of looked up for the first time, and I said, God, if you're out there, I need some help. I'm not going to make it. I don't want to live this way anymore. I don't want my life to look like this. And I ended up in a place, actually ended up in a hospital. I was strung out on drugs and alcohol. And I met some folks that threw an arm around me, and they said, hey, if you're sincere about this, come with us. We'll take you in, we'll help you. I ended up in Phoenix, Arizona, and kind of started my journey with God, and it was very simple. It was a mustard seed type faith. I didn't grow up in the church, but I certainly acknowledge that I wouldn't have made it another day if God hadn't intervened. So that kind of started the new course for me. But coming from that, it's always given me a lot of motivation on the inside, because I know what it's like to feel helpless. I know what it's like to come from nothing and create something from nothing. So things have a lot of meaning to me. Help.
Did I lose you there for a second?
Yeah, for a second, we're good.
But yeah, that's the central theme of my entire life, is to be of service. If other folks wouldn't have been there for me, and I didn't get to where I am alone, life doesn't have much meaning. So, God, where do you want me to go, and who can I help? How can I use the tools that are around me, the skills that you've given me, to help the people that you want me to help? And that's a central theme of my life these days.
So, John, I think a lot of people, this is kind of off my little topic thing, but I want to go there. In my personal opinion, people that have actually lived through things tend to have the best perspectives on life because they failed, and they can actually see something to happen or see something in the future that if you've been given everything, you don't see it. So, would you say in your campaign, other people tried to use that against you?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, it's just the way of the world, Alex. You know it just like I know it. The world's an ugly place, and it's getting even uglier. In particular in politics. I mean, if you look at, in politics, it's just, for lack of a better term, a lot of horse shit, man. I mean, people are saying one thing and doing another, and then some of them are hiding behind this flag of we're Christian conservatives, and I'm looking in the Bible, and I'm like, there's nothing Christian about attacking somebody. There's nothing Christian about being dishonest and doing anything and saying anything that you can to stay in power. That's not what it's about. So I learned a lot, and I grew a lot as a person throughout the campaign when people would, I mean, you saw it, it was just crazy. I had a picture of me I went on a ski trip with some buddies. There's a rainbow flag behind us at a pizza shop, and that picture got mailed out to, like, thousands of homes, and it said John supports transgender mutilation or something crazy. And I thought, what in the world? Like, this was 5 years ago at a pizza shop, rainbow flag. So, I learned a lot about forgiveness, and I learned a lot about who am I? Who am I as a person? Why am I doing this? And even in losing, it's okay. God's got the plan, and everything happens for a reason, win or lose.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, yeah, you're right about that. Because and another, I'm piggybacking on this question again because when those things came out about you and those people, instead of trying to find out who you were, they tried to attack you. How did you and your wife handle that together? Because I know that's very important. My wife was not a fan of me running for city council, but I understand everyone's wife's different. So how did you guys handle those things together as a married couple?
Uh, Leaning heavily on faith. And, we got married young. I was 21, she was 20. So we both agreed at the beginning of the marriage that God was going to lead the way. And no matter what, we were going to be tied off to the rock. So when the storms come, and they do come for all of us, that we wouldn't be washed away. And this was a pretty big storm. We had never seen the viciousness of people who I'd never met, people that didn't know me. So, I think their main point of attack was, my marriage went through a tough time a while back, and we almost got divorced. It went to the point to where we had filed for divorce, and we were just at each other's throats, and there was nothing good about it. And then, God entered the room, and there's forgiveness and there's growth. And that's my personal journey. You're not going to find another human being on this planet that hasn't been through something. And those that God brought them through, uh, you know, that's the testimony right there. So to see that used as an attack is pretty discouraging to the way of the world. But again, if you go back to what the Bible says, man, you can live for God or you can live for the world. You can't live for both, and the world's kind of always going to disappoint like that. So in the end, everything's okay. We came out a lot stronger, and we grew a lot together.
I love that. I'll be honest with you, John. Your story and what you went through with your wife things it helped me with my wife. So I want to thank you for that. You may not have
Cool.
known that, but for me personally, I understand. My wife was not a fan of running for city council. It was a lot of stress in my house. So and when we mean you spoke privately and those things you told me, thank you so much. That's me personally telling you that. So thank you. Also, okay, so during the campaign, what was the hardest thing you had to figure out?
Uh, doing the actual job's not that hard. That comes naturally. Problem solving, strategic stuff, like the actual job's hard. Figuring out how to position yourself, having no political experience. I didn't really have a political advisor. I got in the race late, so it was learn everything all at once. And
Trial by
then
fire.
I'm exactly, and obviously I'm facing the most vicious opponent in the state of Texas, the most hated legislator, maybe even in the history of Texas. I mean, it just we're really staring down a bull. So things are uncomfortable, like filming videos of myself, or I'm actually a pretty quiet person. I get a lot done. I've had a lot of success, but I haven't done it in a loud way. I'm not one to talk about my accomplishments and go on a stage and pump myself up or start yelling or anything. It's just that stuff didn't come natural to me. So that was kind of one of those things that I had to learn how to step outside of my comfort zone and at least package it in a humble, but hey, here's who I am, here's what I've done kind of way.
Now, John, one of my favorite things I saw in your campaign, and a matter of fact, I just watched that video earlier today doing my research, is when you're in that panel Midlothian and you're like, you're chill, you're sitting there, you're like, doop de doop de doo, and your other opponent is up yelling and jumping around and throwing his hands in the air and saying stuff, and you calmly spoke and you spoke in a very elegant way. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is insane. So when that moment happened, like, because I saw the look on your face. I know you were really trying to hold it back, but I kind of felt like you were shocked a little bit, like what is going on with this circus? So tell us about that moment.
Yeah, you got to play a clip of that somewhere in here so they can see what you're talking about for those that haven't seen. But obviously, a lot of moments like that happen, and we captured that one. But it's strange. It's just one of those things I don't understand. I mean, man, you can yell at a problem, and you can just beat your chest, and there are probably a lot of people that'll go along with that. But again, that's not my style. It doesn't get anywhere. Yelling about problems and blasting people on social media and all that, I think has led us into a bad place. We're one of the fastest growing counties in Texas. I mean, you're right. Of course we have problems, man. Property taxes are through the roof. I mean, nobody knows that more than me. I pay more in property taxes my house than I did my first mortgage. It's crazy. I feel like I don't own my house. I'm paying monthly more than a mortgage for the tax. It's ridiculous. I have a small business, commercial properties. I'm getting taxed everywhere. I feel it. I feel the frustration. But my personality is not to yell about the problem. Mine is to go in and start solving the problem.
Yeah.
And to hear somebody screaming like that, it definitely was a bit shocking. And
The look on your face, John, it was just priceless. It was priceless.
well, thanks for your compliment. Yeah, I held it together best I could. There is a darker side of me. I guess if you keep yelling, I'll start having dark thoughts about tackling you or something. But that's not what God would want. So I just kept rolling with it.
So, what challenges did you and Alyssa face as a married couple, and how did you balance family life and political life at the time you were running?
um, there really wasn't much balance, to be honest with you. There's no way to balance something like that. You're in a hurricane. I mean, the wind's blowing in every direction. There's a vent every night. Everyone wants a piece of you. Um, it's life goes upside down, and luckily it's just for a short period of time, really temporary kind of suffering. But afterwards, and I mean the day after, we both looked at each other and took a deep exhale and thought, "Thank goodness that's over." And these days, I get to coach baseball again for my kids, and we're going on fun family trips, and I'm back in my office, and it probably makes me more grateful for the life I have today, whereas I took some of those things for granted before. I appreciate my family time now. I appreciate my personal time. I appreciate the opportunity to serve where I'm allowed to serve, and it changed my perspective in a good way on a lot of things.
That's awesome, man. I think that's great, and I like I said, I couldn't imagine. Like I said, my situation was very stressful, and like you said, it's kind of like a weight lifted off your shoulders. It's like, oh, I'm good. You kind of feel free. It's a good word. So like, I'm free. Like you're free from bondage. It's a weird feeling. So, all right,
Yeah.
a couple more questions left. I know you got stuff to do today. All right, looking back, did you respect the way your opponent ran the race?
Um. Nah. I mean,
Be honest, John.
I don't.
Time to be honest.
Of course, I don't like being attacked, man. Of course, it's vicious, and a lot of it was so much lies and deceit. So no, I don't have any respect for that. But again, that's the reason I entered the race in the first place. I put myself into that arena. Nobody forced me to do it. I had seen other people torn apart by this vicious, dishonest approach, and I didn't like that. I've never liked bullies, and I've always been the one to stand up to the bully on the playground. And he got the drop on me, but I had a lot of respect for Matt Authier, and how he handled himself, and I know it was really hard on his family too. And watching, his family and his friends, it's us that are in the spotlight. But to tell you the truth, I never cared what anybody thought. If God's got me on a path, then win or lose, we're going that way, and it can't ever be wrong. But the people that love us and the people that support us are watching us, go through this and knowing that it's dishonest. I think it might be harder on them. And that going through a campaign that, the spouse and the immediate family is kind of standing by helplessly watching
Yeah.
us, get blasted. And that's much respect to anyone, any spouse or family member that's willing to go through that and see the bigger picture and continue to support. That's really a special thing.
If you could change one thing about the race, what would it be and why?
Uh, It's a tough question. Strategically, I would have gotten into the race 6 months, 9 months sooner. Actually raised money, not self-funded it. Gone out and got endorsements. There's a better way to go about it. It was last minute, but I accept that it happened the way it was supposed to happen. I hate to see that we're going to have the same problems for the next 2 years. The next session is going to be the same stuff, but at least for an incumbent, they always have the advantage. But we took a pretty big bite out, and we exposed a lot of stuff that I know that folks are starting to pay attention to now. So, let's look a little bit behind that rhetoric at what the results category is leading to. And we're about to see in this upcoming session, if we don't get any legislation, if we don't secure any funding, if we're still not having any town hall meetings or any contact or any real things of substance happening for Ellis County, at least people are paying attention now. I think it got a lot of
Yeah.
people opening their perspective.
Do you think in Ellis County, as a person actually, served under the Republican, moniker, would you say that there's a major league divide in our city when it comes to Democrats and Republicans?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. That's going to be across the state and the nation. Naturally, the pendulum swings one way and then it goes back the other. And you've got, MAGA, which I used to be on board with Trump, and I voted for him and everything else. But um, you start to kind of look at it like, hold on a second, we're no more foreign wars. What are we doing in Iran? Why is
Yeah.
gas so high? Why are my taxes not going down? Why is inflation rising? The opposite thing is happening based on what you campaign for. So, yes, we're tied to the Republican Party. Of course, I'm a Republican. I'm a conservative. Less government. Get the government out of my business. I don't want to pay more taxes. America was founded, we went to war over a heck of a lot more in taxes. I mean, our government is raking us over the coals, and they're not spending the money wisely either. It's horrible. It's out of control. I mean, we're at over $1 trillion now. They're asking for to fund, this ongoing thing in Iran, and we keep getting told, well, Strait of Hormuz is open. It's closed. No, it's open. No, it's closed. And just the way that divide is happening, you've got us common sense constitutional Republicans that are like, I don't know about this. I'm not sure this is what I signed up for. And then you've got the diehard will follow you off the cliff, MAGA. We don't care. We're just going to hate. And we're just, anyone who doesn't agree with us, screw them. We're going to live back in the woods and, wear tinfoil hats. And that's fine. I mean, God created us all, but I'm not in that camp. I think that Harrison camp of not looking past the rhetoric at what are the actual facts? What is the implication on this with my day-to-day life? Of course, we don't want boys going into girls' bathrooms.
No.
We don't want Sharia law taking over our schools. Like, I get it. But what about our taxes? Like, what about our roadways and the extreme amount of growth that we're seeing in Ellis County? We don't have a relationship with TxDOT. Now, of course, I don't want a boy in a girl's bathroom, but I think I'm going to put my focus on getting a good relationship with TxDOT so that we can have the infrastructure to handle the tremendous amount of growth that we have coming. And it's not those issues aren't important, but you start throwing around, nasty names like, oh, they're a rhino, if you don't agree with me.
What is a rhino?
Well,
For the people that don't know, what is a rhino?
Republican in name only, I think is what it is. But, I've just kind of adopted that you're a rhino if you're just anyone that disagrees or, you don't want to be an asshole. I mean,
Yeah.
uh, it's just it's an easy label that people are throwing around really loose if you disagree. And we're supposed to disagree, Alex. I mean, that's what makes our nation so great is there's this counterbalance. There's this system of checks and balances, right? Where our government shouldn't get too much power
No.
and we have the right to overthrow and bear arms and free speech, and that's what makes America great, right? Other countries don't have that. You can't just speak out against the government. You can't just own a firearm to protect yourself. These are freedoms that make America the greatest country in the entire world. So I'm all about protecting that, but I'm not okay with hating someone based on just disagreeing with their philosophy.
I agree with that. I wish I like to tell people all the time in my marriage, my wife is very Democrat. I'm super conservative, very Republican. But my thing is, I love my wife not for our politics. I love my wife because she's an amazing woman. And if more people thought like that, and I put labels on things, I think things would be a little bit better. But we have a few more questions. All right, so let's talk numbers. Let's talk numbers. On election night, when you saw your numbers, I'm gonna go over those numbers real quick. So, Brian Harris, incumbent, he got 12,503 votes at 53.39%. Matt Altier, is that correct? Did I say his name right? Is it
Altier,
Altier?
yeah.
Altier. He got 5,707 votes. He had 24.37% of the vote. And John, you had 5,208 votes with 22.24% of the vote. When you saw that number at Texas Theater, how were you feeling when you first saw it? I know. I know you did something all day. You came in. I remember I was there. You got fresh out of the shower because you're campaigning all day long. You walk in that bad boy. You see those numbers on that big screen. What are you thinking?
Yeah, so I knew the numbers. They released the early voting numbers, I think, pretty quickly. So we were still packing up, when we figured it out. But this first natural human instinct of disappointment and geez, a little bit of self-pity, like, God, we put in all that work and then that's the result. And then I just immediately moved to acceptance, and it's also humbling to think that 5,000 something people voted for me that, most of them I've never met. I mean, I jumped in late and I said what I needed to say and I presented myself with authenticity. The most important thing to me, Alexx, is I didn't try to be something that I'm not. I didn't go in there saying things that I think people wanted to hear. I showed who I am and what I'm about and why I was doing it and what I wanted to get done. And if that didn't work out, that's quite all right. Again, that's what makes our nation great. You can vote on what you believe. If you believe that's the best route, then vote for that. And if not, then I accept that. Again, it's okay with me. I'm grateful for the opportunity to have gone through it, the people that supported me, the great people that I met along the way, and who knows what the future holds, man. If now wasn't the time, maybe at some point later in life. Of course, I'll never lose my desire to serve other people. Something I started praying for when I was 19. When I turned my life around and met God, is God used me to the greatest ability possible. Help me to do great things. Not great things for me, but how can I impact the most lives with the skills and the tools that God's given me? So I believe at some point in the future, maybe it's politics, maybe it's business, a nonprofit, something. I'll always be looking for some way to serve. So I'm grateful for the journey and the opportunity.
So my last question is, I kind of somewhat answered it. After everything you experienced, are you gonna run again for any type of office? And if you do another campaign in the future, is it going to be the same one or maybe something a little on the lower level, like Mayor Jon Garrett?
No, look, let me just plug, Mayor Billy Wallace is awesome. I think Waxahachie has a
Great.
great city council. We have outstanding leadership. If God puts it in front of me, Alexx, I will, but I really have no desire at this time. You're not going to see me in the next race. I've met with a few folks that I think will run. I think there's some exciting candidates coming up, and those that are, right, that I believe in, I will probably get behind them and support. I think naturally that's a better position for me. Is keep running my businesses, keep building things, and support the people that I believe in. And then maybe someday, way down the road, Alexx, I mean, my kids are grown and I really don't care what people think,
That's where
maybe if
I'm
an
at, John.
opportunity. I don't know, man. God's got the plan, but I'm here to serve for whatever pops up.
Well, John, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. I know you have a lot going on. I know you have family stuff and kids started back school today. So thank you so much for spending time with me on my interview. I really appreciate that. So in closing, once again, thank you, John, for being on the show. Once again, this is the Losers Club edition. I'm not just the host. I'm also a member. Thank you so much for the experience, John. You have a great day. Hopefully we'll see you again doing some other stuff. But in closing, I want to thank you to our listeners for Pivotal Voice. I'm host Alexx Alexander. Final question. What makes your town unique and special that you appreciate and that you like? Thank you guys for listening to Pivotal Voice. I've been your host. Thank you, John. You guys have a great day. God bless. Thank you, John.
Thanks, Alexx.
You're welcome.